Hey y'all, today I'm going to be soft modding my PS2 so I can play game backups. Specifically, I'm going to be loading from a network share, but you can load from a USB stick or if you've got a fat model PS2 from the internal hard drive. For this, you're going to need a PS2, a memory card with free McBoot, and a USB drive or an MX4 SIO style memory card to SD adapter, or a network cable so you can access a local network store to run games. The Slim PS2 has a network adapter built in, but if you're using the fat PS2, you'll need a network adapter, or like I said before, you can use the internal hard drive. Setup is really easy. Just hook up your PS2 as normal and stick the free McBoot memory card into memory card slot 1. If you're wondering how you get one of these memory cards, you can buy them online for really cheap, and that's honestly the best way. Once you have one, you can actually use it to clone it onto another memory card using your PS2. Each of the different sources has pros and cons. So like I said, you can use the internal hard drive, which is honestly the best option, but mine doesn't have one. A USB drive is by far the easiest, but the PS2 only has USB 1.1, which is about 8 times slower than the network adapter. And the memory card adapter is a little bit faster than USB, but slower than using the network. I'll start by using the USB drive. Setup is basically the same for the SD card method or the hard drive method. You'll need to format your drive as FAT32. I think the newest version of OPL actually supports exFAT if you prefer, but I haven't tested it. And then we'll set up the folder structure we need for the OpenPS2 loader, which is OPL. And you can see that on screen. If you're using a FAT32 formatted drive, you'll need to split any game files that are larger than 4 gigs to be able to copy them over, which I'm not going to go over today, but there's a bunch of guides online. I've already copied my game backups onto the USB and used OPL Manager, which is a standalone software, to get artwork and whatnot for them. But we'll get to that later. With my PS2 set up, I'll plug in the USB drive and turn it on. From the menu, I'll choose OPL. And you can see it automatically detects the USB drive and scans the game folders. The memory card adapter works in exactly the same way, so I'm not going to bother repeating that. Now I'll start up FF10.2, and you can see why the USB drive is not the best option. Also, make sure you turn off autosaves or remove the free McBoot memory card from your console once you get OPL running. You don't want to accidentally overwrite it. So you can see the FMV is stuttering because the PS2 can't load files fast enough from the USB to keep up. The memory card adapter is a bit better, since it's actually a little bit faster, but it still does have the same kind of issue every now and then. Alright, with that done, I'm now going to show you how to set up a network share for the PS2. I've set up a GitHub repo linked below that has literally everything I'm using so you can follow along. Essentially, I'm running a Docker container that has an SMB, or Samba, share. I've included the config that forces it to use v1, which is insecure, so you have to keep it in your local network, but that's the only one that works with OPL. In the repo, we have the Samba config file, the Docker compose file, an example OPL folder structure that you basically need for OPL to run, and a script I use to convert my bin and queue files into ISOs for compatibility with OPL. One thing to note is that this might not work on Windows. I haven't tried it, but while looking it up, I saw Windows reserves the same port for file sharing, so you'll either need something running Linux like a Raspberry Pi, or you can try running a Linux VM inside of Windows, as long as you can give it its own IP on your network. Alright, so I'm going to log into one of my network machines and show you how to get this working. I'll assume you've already installed Docker and have it running. If not, there are lots of tutorials for that online. The first thing you'll do is clone the Git repository. Once that's done, cd into the folder, and then you can edit the Docker compose to change the username and password for the share. Here I'm setting user to PS2 and password to pass. You save and exit, then edit the Samba config file to change the valid user to our new username, so to add PS2. Save that and then run docker compose up-d, and it'll pull the image and start it up running in the background. Now I'll test it's working by trying to access the share. I just have to put in the IP of the box I was working on and the name of the share, which is PS2 by default. Your IP will most likely be different, but you can find it with the IP command on Linux or by checking whatever devices are connected to your router. In the dialog, I'll put in the user PS2 and the password is pass, and then we can see the OPL folder from the other machine. Now I'll just copy a game over for testing. I'm using Gradius 5, so I'll drop that in the CD folder. Once the copy is complete, we'll go back to the PS2. From the menu, choose OPL. And then we'll access the network settings. You'll need to set this up based on your network. I'm using static IP for the PS2 just because that works well for my network, and setting the SMB server information to the IP of the machine that's running the Docker image. Make sure you use the right share name, which is PS2 by default, and the right username and password based on your config. And if you want this to persist every time you turn on your PS2, make sure you hit Save Changes. Now I can load up the game we just added, but for comparison's sake and through the magic of editing, I'll actually jump ahead to my complete Samba share so we can see the difference between the USB drive and network using FF102's opening cinematic again. You'll see some funky colors or flashes while it's loading, and then after a little bit, the game will start. Honestly, how long this takes varies a lot depending on the game, and for some, it definitely feels slower to start than the USB, but you can see how much smoother the FMV is. Okay, I mentioned OPL Manager earlier, so let's get into that now. It's a standalone program that you can run to organize your library and get box art and such for OPL to use. It's why you can see the game art in my Samba share and on my USB stick. For this example, I've added a couple more games and loaded up OPL Manager. It tells me they're invalid, so I go to the Invalid Games tab, select the invalid game, and clear any special characters from the name, then rename it. Afterwards, I'm going to go back to the Home tab and click Manage Arts, and then I can click through and select the artwork I want to use for the game. It automatically grabs it based on the game ID, so I just pick each one I want and then move on. Some have multiple options, others are just a single image, so choose whatever you like. You can also set your own custom ones. Once that's done, I'll choose to rename the game to something readable, in this case the title of the game. Then I can go through and do the same thing with any other invalid games. For my second game, I'm going to try getting the title automatically from the DB, which works, and then I go through and update the art and such again. With all that done, I'm going to go play some PS2. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing, and I hope to see you in the next one.